Hey everyone, in this video I will show you the basic steps of how to construct your mug or tumbler using slab clay. The first thing I want to show you is to compare the sizes of the different types of mug-like shapes that you can have. These two pieces were wheel thrown, but I'm bringing them out here because I want you to take note of how much the clay shrinks when they are being fired. This is a 12-ounce paper cup, which is the medium size found at Starbucks. And as you can see, the other two pieces that were handmade are much smaller. They will probably only hold, maybe 8 ounces of liquid in it. The other two pieces are also made from about 1.5 to 2 pounds of clay. So they do shrink quite a bit during the firing process in bisqueware and then finally in glazeware. So take note of that when you are constructing your pieces, that it will shrink in size, and that if you want a much larger container, aim for it to be a little bit larger. But for the size that we're working with, which will probably yield an 8-ounce cup of container, you want to start off with half the amount of clay that was provided for you in the bag. So the clay itself, it's been weighed out to be about 3 pounds, and half of it is roughly about 1.5 pounds. And I just kind of eyeballed it because everyone is starting off with the cube. Whatever clay that you're not using, make sure that you seal it in the plastic bag and set it aside. So I'm going to start off with about 1.5 pounds of clay, and the very first thing you want to do is to wedge it out like how we have started off all of our other projects. So give it a good wedging, work out any of the air bubbles or pockets that might be in there. And don't forget that the surface area you're working on should be a surface area where clay isn't going to want to stick to it, okay? So while you're working and wedging out clay, do so on top of a piece of cardboard, or on here I've got canvas, but the material itself is going to repel the clay and perhaps absorb some of the moisture. Once you have wedged out your clay pretty good, you can go ahead and cube it. So I started off by cubing it, but I don't want it to be a perfect box. I want it to be kind of flat because I'm going to end up rolling it out, and I want to roll it out so that it's more rectangular in shape. But compressing it like this will really help the clay become more compact, so you don't have air bubbles in it. So I've got my Lysol container here to act as my roller, my slab roller, so I can start rolling it out. And again, I want to roll it out so that it is more rectangular in shape, okay? And be careful doing so you don't end up with too many cracks. Your clay should be rolled out to be about the thickness of your pinky here. We don't want it to be too thin, but we also don't want it to be too thick. Here I have elongated it, and I could probably thin it out just a little bit more here, and I'm just smoothing things out further with my Lysol container. Now I want to compare the bases, okay? Now remember I said that clay will shrink in the kiln. As you can see here, these are pretty narrow for the bases. They're roughly about the same size, and I want to find a template that is going to be slightly larger. A really good template to use is if you still have the cap on your underglaze container, you can certainly use that. Other containers that you may have laying around the house, peanut butter jars. Here I have like a medium-sized Skippy peanut butter jar, which is slightly larger than the base on the mug that I compared it to. I'm going to use that as my template. So whatever circular shape that you have at home, compare it with the base of some of your mugs or glass cups that you have at home, and you want that circle template to be just a little bit larger than the cups that you use to compare it to. So I'm going to go ahead and use this as my template. I'm going to trim off just a piece of the clay, and I've aligned it right up to the edge because I'm going to end up using the other slab for the walls. So use this as a template and go ahead and cut out your circle. Okay, so here I have a very clean, straight up and down edge. I have approximately 9 inches left over on my slab piece here. I'm gonna go ahead and trim the bottom so that it is a 90-degree angle and I have a nice straight horizontal line using my straight edge. You don't necessarily need a ruler, however, a ruler really does help, and having a straight edge really does help. And then from my bottom edge, and again, and I apologize because you can't really see what I'm doing here, but I'm trying to measure out the height. And on my mug, it's maybe just shy of 4 inches, whereas this 12-ounce container is about 5¼ inches. Because I don't have that much height to my clay slab, 4 inches is about the best that I can do on here. So I'm measuring out 4 inches for the height, and I'm just gonna mark it on here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and line my ruler up all the way across, trying to create a 90-degree angle here so it's nice and straight, and I'm gonna trim off that top edge there that's kind of messy. So the height of it is approximately 4 inches for my slab, and I'm going to roll it out just a little bit further just to make sure that I have enough clay for my base. Okay, so that is looking pretty good. Now I'm going to take my circular base here, and I'm going to go ahead and smooth out the clay here, because once you attach the slab to it to create the walls for your tumbler, it's going to be really difficult to smooth out the bottom. Like, it's just a small space. It's really hard for you to fit your hand in there and smooth it out. So I'm going to go ahead and do as much smoothing as I can before I attach it. So smooth it out with your finger. The clay should still be nice and soft. You shouldn't have to smooth it out with any slip. Now that it's all smooth, I'm going to go ahead and score the edges here. This is where it will be coming in contact with my slab to create the walls of the tumbler. So give it a good give it a good score on your circle template, and then give a good scoring right along the edge where they will be coming in contact. And once you're finished with that, you can go ahead and apply some slip. Okay, so very carefully pick up your slab and align that edge with the outer part of your base that you just scored, okay? So very carefully keep it as upright as possible, and that is just going to sit right on top, and you want to form it so that it resembles that of a cylinder as much as possible. Once you have it set on there, we are going to trim off that ugly part, that excess clay that we have on there. We don't need it. Make sure you carefully pick it up and check along the base to see that it is nice and flush right up against the circular base. And then I am going to very carefully trim off that extra clay. To join the edges, I'm going to score both of them, and then I'll apply some slip, and I will push them together to close that gap there and seal them. But as you can see, my piece looks a little problematic. I've got like this giant crack right along the edge there, and I don't know if I thought that I was going to somehow be able to salvage that later on, but at this point, now that I'm joining things together, I'm starting to notice that perhaps I won't be able to fix it, and I have to make a decision. Is this something that I'm going to continue with, or should I go ahead and start over? So guys, this kind of stuff happens to me too, even though I've been working with clay for a long time. Sometimes the clay turns out poopy too for me. So this is what happens when your piece doesn't turn out so great. You end up having to start over again. So I'm just going to combine my scraps here and restart the steps of wedging, compressing, and rolling out my piece once again. And hopefully this time it'll be more successful. Okay, so this is where we left off when I decided to start over again on my piece. We left off with just smoothing and blending things out. So any, cracks, blemishes that you have on there, you do want to try to clean those up as best as possible when you're combining the edges. And then to further blend in that base to your walls, you want to make sure that you blend the two pieces together. So I'm just taking a little bit off the edge there and pushing it forward while supporting it on the inside with my other hand and really blending out that crease there so that the two pieces are well joined. Alright, so now that I have my basic cylindrical shape, I'm just going to refine it further. So I'm taking my time here while the clay is still nice and soft to get rid of any wrinkles that I may have, any jaggedy edges along the rim, fixing any thin spots of walls, any thin spots that I may have on the walls of the clay, smoothing out the wrinkles because I don't want the clay to break down on me or the cracks or any of the wrinkles to turn into large cracks. You can use a little bit of slip to help you out with smoothing, but really just taking your time, shaping it if you want to add some roundness to the bottom, and supporting it with your hand and just, taking your time to work on your craftsmanship and focus on refining that mug or tumbler form. It can be really difficult to get to the bottom of your piece and smooth out the base. One trick is to just dip your brush in a little bit of slip and use the brush to smooth out your bottom. So that's what I'm doing here, is just trying to smooth the inside of it as best as I can with the brush and just a little bit of slip. And here's the final product, guys. Good luck with the shaping of your mug and tumbler.